China's activity in space have been in the news, and they have all been for the wrong reasons. Some time back, there were debris from a Chinese rocket that re-entered the Earth's atmosphere and splashed into the Indian Ocean. Now forget about it. China is working to weaponize space with an array of capabilities that is intended to target United States and allied satellites as part of its ambitious plans to displace the United States. And if you say that's a new development, it is not. This is not a new development. China is essentially failing to meet responsible standards regarding the space debris and how exactly to safeguard space debris. With China planning an ambitious space program that includes its own space station, it is likely that there will be much more risky incidents in the future as well, like the two of them that took place in the past. It is somewhat disturbing because China's space program has advanced to a degree that it undertakes missions, including landing on South Pole Aitken Basin, that is going to be on the far side of the moon, returning rocks from the moon, an interplanetary mission to Mars. Now that means it is going to be putting the entire of the inner space, the whole of the solar system onto risk. It is going to be keeping them on ransom. Chinese threats are going to be much more real. So when we're going to be talking about the space, is it that Chinese are to be blamed? And if it is that they are to be blamed, what exactly is to be blamed? And how exactly, if it is that is to be blamed, then how to secure it? And how is it that we can go to make it through certain type of accords? China's military plans to match or exceed US capabilities in space to gain the military, economic, and prestigious benefits that United States has accrued from space leadership is going to be one of them. Second is, China has already fielded ground-based anti-satellite missiles meant to destroy satellites in low Earth orbit as well as ground-based anti-satellite lasers. Now, this is probably intended to blind or damage sensitive space-based optical sensors on low Earth orbit satellites. Now, to this effect, China's first successful anti-satellite test in January 2007 at an altitude of 850 kilometers that resulted in creation of no less than something like some 3,000 pieces of space debris in this space. Now, this had an spiraling effect. And each of China's actions have led to an spiraling effect actually, while others try to seek to match China's actions, especially in the Indo-Pacific region, given the contested nature of Asian and global geopolitics. For example, China's repeated ASAT tests have led US to own its own ASAT, that is Operation Burnt Frost in 2008, and then India has a ASAT as well, Mission Shakti in 2019, and that is going to be leading to Australia and Japan following this suit. How is it that one can imagine that if one of these countries goes on to test its anti-satellite missile, the other countries will keep on remaining quiet and will keep on remaining quiet for a good amount of a time. Apart from and aside from the destructive counter space technology, China is also pursuing parallel programs for military and commercial communication satellites and owns and operates about 30 of those civil, commercial, and military satellite communications. This is something that is known, and it also operates a small number of dedicated military communication satellites, and no one can go on to know that at all. Because the Chinese operation is going to be stealth. It is going to be with a certain type of posturing, and Chinese don't go on to believe in fighting a war. They go on to be developing a posture that is deception and deceive. These are the two common points. They don't go on to believe in having a direct confrontation, because this is significant because a soldier has a culture. A soldier is going to be there in the field for the purpose of dying, while the Chinese are not soldiers at all. They are always going to be believing in deception, deceit, and whatnot. And of course, this is how most of the wars have been actually won as well. Moreover, while some of the rockets that the Chinese going to design, they're going to crash into maybe Indian Ocean, and then one has crashed. then without damaging property, then the question in this case is that why is China space program repeatedly allowing this to happen? Now understand this part. China has the technical capability to design and launch rockets whose spent stages can land without putting others at risk. It has the technology and it can go to do it, but then it is not doing it. And that it has not done is what is odd. Even though it may not be linked to the uncontrolled re-entry of the Chinese rocket. Rocket re-entries are not uncommon. It can be with any country. But the space powers have tried to avoid the forefalls by usually conducting controlled re-entries so that they may go on to fall in the ocean and they may be directed towards the so-called graveyard orbits that may lie there for decades of sorts. Chinese rocket was designed in a manner that leaves and most of the Chinese rockets are designed in a manner that leaves these big stages in the low orbit. That means all the stages, they don't go on to come on the ground. They go on to be moving in the low orbit. And even in the case of controlled re-entries, there are failures and times they can be dangerous as well. And who knows it better? SpaceX went on to meet this type of a threat, meet that type of fate as well. There have been some dangers that are going to be accruing recently, and some of them are going to be real dangers. For example, the emphasis of the Chinese on making AIA-based, artificial intelligence-based machines. And when you go on to build artificial intelligence-based machines, and when you actually go on to create a machine that can go on to create machine, that is going to be deadly. Human beings will go on to have no role in that. Maybe who knows that the Chinese themselves go on to become the harbingers of their own death, but then they cannot go on to understand these things at all. That is one part. And Chinese are making developments in space by leaps and bounds of sorts. And so they are trying to do it with the help of quantum computing. And if it is that they insert quantum computing into space technologies and such type of warfare, God forbid, that will be the end of mankind. This is largely because Chinese cannot go to control their minds at all. And to top it all, to say that space is something that we don't want it to be polluted. Chinese are not concerned with it because that is what their mindset is. That is I, me, myself. That is the people, they don't want to own the people. They are not concerned about their own people. Forget about the whole of the humanity. Since they are not going to be concerned even about their own people, how is it that they are going to be concerned about the humanity in general at all? And that is the basic reason that they can go to pollute anything. They can go to pollute a river, they can go to pollute any region, they can go to pollute what not in this place. So, and if a space goes on to get polluted, there will be dangers and there will be dangers. Do you know? It can't be cleaned. And even if it is that, who will go to clean it? What type of technologies? Now, this is one area where it is very difficult to clean the whole of it. Now, Chinese, even if it is that they're going to agree on certain things, it is not to be believed. Chinese are one people along with Pakistani that are never ever to be believed. Chinese have a terrible track record when it comes to meeting their own treaty commitments. China's violation of its own commitments with respect to nuclear non-proliferation or in South China Sea or in East China Sea is very well given. And given this history, it is difficult to believe that China will allow itself to be bound by any restraint in its space program, even if they happen to sign certain type of an agreement. So does this mean that the problem has reached to a stage where it is going to be insurmountable? Is it that that nothing can be done? Maybe that there are certain things which can be done. One of them is what can be done is that humanity must go to come together to jointly manage near Earth space as a commons in need for coordination, protocols and practices to maximize safety. And that is utopian. Of course, they will go to come together and maybe thereafter no one knows what will go to happen. The second part is usable orbits in space are finite in nature. There is a usable orbit and there will be need to take steps taken by all the space players to ensure that their actions do not contribute to further pollution of space and make it unusable in the near term. This is because it goes on to concern the entire of humanity, be it Chinese or be it anyone. The only country that will not be able to understand it is that is going to be Chinese, of course. What we are talking about is that is a certain type of a degree on accord on the lines of IAEA, on the lines of UNCLOS, United Nations Convention on Law of a Sea, which can go on to restrain some of the countries from polluting space to an extent that it doesn't going to become insurmountable of a problem. Spacefaring countries must minimize the risks to people and property on Earth, particularly re-entries of the space objects, and maximize transparency regarding these operations. China is failing to meet these responsible standards regarding their space debris, and that is why they need to be brought under ambit, and if not, we have to be strong. That means we are the entire humanity have to be strong in the sense that you must be having a capability to destroy the Chinese, destroy the very basic arms and ammunition in a space that the Chinese are going to be arming themselves with. Without it, it will be very, very difficult to contain and control the Chinese. Moreover, space have to invest in technology that will go on to aid up in cleaning, getting rid of some of the debris. That is, all these countries must go on to come together. In this case, states, all the countries must also come together in developing norms, rules of the road, and legally binding and political instruments on a large. Because without it, space, if it goes on to get polluted, and if the amount of debris in the low Earth orbit goes on to become very high, the problem will be that is, these debris will start falling on the Earth at any point of a time in any manner possible. Now, is it that if that is going to be made, all the countries will go to abide? Take an example of UNCLOS, United Nations Convention Law of Sea, and some of the most powerful 19 countries have not signed it. They keep on doing whatever that they can go to do. So one of the problems is that while the US abides by international obligations, others do not. But then who knows that USA will not going to abide by that. So every now and then USA abides by it, but every now and then it can go to break it as well. So this puts the whole of the international community in a bind. If we have to ensure safe and uninterrupted access to space, creating a secure, sustainable and predictable outer space framework that is essential, then we won't be able to sustain a space economy and a space society also. And unless all states, all the countries demonstrate a commitment to living up to existing rules and norms, creating new ones will be even more difficult. Given US almost allergic reaction to signing legal agreements that others like China may violate, it doesn't hurt China to keep bringing up something like a PPWT, prevention and of the placement of the weapons in outer space, or threat or use of force against outer space objects. It has to be ensured that what has happened to UNCLOS and what has happened to IAEA, it shouldn't go on to happen to space. Now, from the perspective of India, we're going to say there is with respect to UNCLOS, a lot of things are not working. A lot of countries are not fulfilling their commitment. And a lot of rules, laws, and treaties are not going to be binding on a lot of countries. In this case, India has to get stronger and stronger, because the real and immediate threat in this case is going to be from the Chinese. Who knows, Chinese can go on to Chinese with the design of having an artificial moon. That is what they are going to be doing with the help of concentrating solar energy and putting it in the form of artificial moon to light up some of these stadiums, some cities, or something else. It is going to be only a flick of a button that they will be able to concentrate the whole of these things in the form of a laser, and that will be a bomb. India must be in a position to inflict a heavier damage onto the Chinese. Only then it will be able to support itself. Only then it will be able to rescue itself. Only then it will be able to protect itself. There's an old saying, that is, if you want peace, be prepared for war. That is what India requires. India must go on to win the war before it can actually go on to even think of winning peace.
To have more such discussions and analysis, subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon for notifications on our upcoming videos.